guys, and welcome to another video. And today I'm going to be talking about the true origins behind the Disney films and the dark stories behind the films. I did say I was going to talk about this in a previous video for you. I'm sorry if I'm holding my phone, it needs charging, and I really need to film this video today, so I'm just holding it. Hopefully the noise from it doesn't put you off in any way. I'm sorry if I've not done any videos in the past few days. I didn't do one yesterday, but I was really busy and we was getting a clothes horse for our washing, and we had got a washing machine yesterday, so it was a busy day yesterday. So hopefully I'll be doing more. I plan on doing a tarot reading roleplay as well, which I said I was going to do. I just need to research a bit more of what to do. It's really interesting. I bought a new tarot card book as well, like a guidebook, so it can help me understand the tarot cards better and everything. And it's very, very interesting as well. So please like this video. And please hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to click on the notification bell so you're updated about any future videos. I also wanted to say as well is Jeff Music Man ASMR is doing a competition over on his channel where you can win a skeletal glass of doom. And it's basically all you have to do is answer one question, providing you're subscribed to his channel. You have to ask one question, which is when was the Jaws movie made, and it's your chance to win a skeletal. So please go check out that video where he talks about it. If you support Jeff, or you're new to him, then go over and support his channel. So I talked about some of this last time. The last video I talked about was the Pinocchio story. So I'm just going to talk about pieces of the actual Disney films, like the true origins, like the darker ones. I will explain the Disney film to you, and then I'll explain the actual one. So, for Pinocchio in the Disney film, he's a wooden puppet, and Geppetto makes him, and there's the blue fairy and there's Jiminy Cricket in the story. It's basically the usual in the Disney film, everyone's seeing it. He wants to become a real boy, and he goes off to, the puppeteer show, and he gets put in slavery as a donkey, and he just wants to become a real boy. And the blue fairy says you can do it, you can become a real boy by doing this. And every time he lies, his nose grows bigger as well, and he gets brought to life by the blue fairy in the actual Disney film, and it's all magical as well in the Disney film as well. And he ends up getting stuck in a well with Geppetto, and then the rest is history. In the dark story of the Pinocchio, it was called Adventures of Pinocchio, which is by Carlo Caldato, who is an Italian writer. And he wrote the original Adventures of Pinocchio in Italian originally, but then he made another copy of it and translated it into English so people could understand it. And in this story was to teach kids to not misbehave, and Pinocchio ends up being this misbehaved child. As soon as he goes around calling the shots. Basically, he kills Cricket, who is supposed to be Jiminy Cricket in the Pinocchio film. He's called Cricket, and he actually looks like a cricket as well, and he doesn't listen to Geppetto that much. He doesn't care about anything, and he basically stands on trial in front of these like judges who are like animals, and because of punishment they burn him. They burn his legs, his wooden legs, on a fire as well. And the blue fairy grants him one wish, which is to look after his father, because his father, Geppetto, is kind of sick of him and wants him to behave, and he hasn't. And so um, she grants him a wish and says, you need to look after your father and you need to get good grades at school and you need to start behaving. The fairy says, otherwise you won't become a real boy. So he tries to change his ways in the story as well. But in the original manuscript of it, the ending was really dark and gruesome, basically because of all of Pinocchio's bad words and he didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. He basically hung himself on a tree as well. And instead of his nose growing bigger, and every time he lied, his nose would grow bigger, and these woodpeckers would put it down to size after he'd stopped lying and told the truth. In the original one, his nose didn't grow magically like in the Disney one. And the blue fairy is on this island. Eventually, in this story, she becomes sick as well, and he has to go visit her. And before he has to go visit her and look after her as well because he feels bad. The pictures in the original Adventures of Pinocchio is really interesting. If I could show you the book and the pictures, I would, but I don't. I have to get me on the phone and show you. Because I've seen it. But obviously, Carlo Cardado changed the story around a bit so that the ending was nicer, so that he would become like a real boy. And there's a cat and the fox in the original book, like in the film, and they keep conning him all the time out of money and stuff, and he falls for it the first time, Pinocchio, but the second time he doesn't fall for it, and they end up getting put on an island in slavery. And he becomes a donkey, like in the film where he turned into a donkey because he takes a potion, like in the film. But he wishes in the film, like the book, that he wants to be a real boy. And he's guilty, feels guilty for all the stuff he's done to Geppetto and everyone else as well. And basically, the blue fairy makes the fishes in the sea like bite off all of the fur off him as a donkey, because he's abused and mistreated as well. And then he just becomes a wooden boy, just floating around in the sea, just pieces of wood. And I think the blue fairy, in the end, she grants him his wish and he becomes a real boy. And he goes to Geppetto and he says sorry for everything he's ever done to him, like that's been bad. And it's pretty much a happy ending like the Disney film. And I do like the actual Pinocchio story, the real one. It's very dark as well. But yeah, that's pretty much this. I've talked about this in my last video because Guillermo del Toro is making a new Pinocchio film that's going to be based on the real story as well. The second one I'm going to talk about is Cinderella. And obviously in the Disney film Cinderella, she goes to the ball, she meets a prince and falls in love, and she leaves the glass slipper behind, and he actually takes it to the house, and it ends up being Cinderella because Cinderella is a maid and she works for the stepsisters and the stepmother after the father remarries. There's a Disney one, and I swear there's a modern one as well of Cinderella, which is pretty much the same. But in the real story behind Cinderella, it's pretty much the same because she goes to the ball and the prince finds her glass slipper as well, and you know. He goes to the house, the prince, and finds out who the slipper actually fits. But the only thing that's different in it is that the stepsisters, and I remember this as a kid because it was all like really gruesome and horrible. And apparently, I think in the end, the stepsisters ended up becoming friends with Cinderella, and the stepmother or the stepsisters get a punishment or something, and that's what happens. But they basically cut off pieces of their toes so that the slipper would fit, the glass slipper would actually fit their foot, which is really horrible. And there's like blood and everything coming out in the glass slipper, and they push each other and shove each other in the book to try and make it fit, but they have to cut one of their pieces of toe off so they can actually fit in it, which is really horrible. But I remember reading about it as a kid. I remember the original story of it. I don't know who originally wrote it. I'm not sure at all, but it's pretty much the same as a Disney film. Only some of it's gruesome a little bit as well. The third film that I'm going to talk about is The Little Mermaid. And this is probably going to be the last one I talk about now because I will do a part 2 to this Disney movie, the real origins behind it, the dark stories. And as a part 2, this is part 1. The Little Mermaid is in the film. She is a little mermaid, and all she wants to do is become a human so she can fall in love with a prince in the Disney film. And she's called Ariel in the Disney film. And she meets Prince Eric, who is a human, and Ursula says, you can become a mermaid if you give me a voice. And then I can give you feet instead of fins. In the dark story by Hans Christian Andersen, they believed that mermaids had souls and that they had to, in order to actually win, in order to get rid of the fact that they had souls, someone said that you can, if you fall in love with a human within a few days, because they all believed that they'd turn into sea form if they didn't fall in love with anybody. And she meets the prince, and she has to fall in love with so many days. And instead of, she gets given feet, like in the film, but it's almost like she's walking on knives instead of her own feet, which is horrible. They say you only have so many days to win the prince over. The witch obviously makes it hard for the Little Mermaid to fall in love with the prince as well, which is annoying. But she ends up slowly dying and going into sea form because she doesn't convince the prince that to fall in love with her at all, so she dies of a broken heart and she turns into sea form. And it's a really horrible story as well. I'm going to do one last one as well because I didn't talk about this as well. Is the Sleeping Beauty story, the dark story behind it. We all know the Disney film is cool, but the dark story in Sleeping Beauty is it's pretty much the same, and there's a curse when she picks a finger. But instead of a prince, it ends up being a king. And the king comes to her when she's sleeping and he rapes her, which is horrible. And she ends up giving birth to a baby girl, and it ends up being his. And the king is actually married to some other woman in the castle, so he's having an affair with Sleeping Beauty in the story, and they have a baby together. Because he ends up having to leave his other wife so that he can be with Sleeping Beauty and he can care for her and the baby in the story. But yeah, that's the dark story behind that. I'm sorry if this video was a bit rushed today. you know. Don't mean it to be like that. I'm just trying to explain it in detail and trying to get through it all. So yeah. But that's pretty much the video today, guys. I hope you enjoy your day today. I think it's Tuesday today. Is it Tuesday? Yeah. So happy Tuesday, everyone. Stay tuned for more videos coming up because there will be more. And I will see you all guys in the next video. Bye guys. Bye.